I want you guys to be able to understand which signs these are automatically. And I want
Okay.
you guys to be able to understand. It's easy to understand what the planets are, but I want you guys to understand which house it is and which sign it is.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'm going to go over this once, and then I'm going to give you guys short quizzes. Okay?
Okay.
The reason this is helpful is because if you guys were looking at your friend's chart and you guys wanted to see what it means in their chart to have the ascendant be Cancer with Jupiter on the ascendant, then you guys want to know what house is Jupiter aspects. So you guys want to immediately know what is going on in your friend's chart. So let's say they're running the Jupiter dasha, and the
Yeah.
dasha is shown right here, Vimshotri dasha. And you guys want to know, okay, where's Jupiter in the chart and what is it aspecting? Because those are the things that are going to be influential in your friend's chart during the 16 years of Jupiter. Okay, so
Okay.
it's good to know what is going on in the chart, but you have to know how to read the chart first. And that's the most elementary, the most basic. That comes like long before even knowing the planets and the signs and houses, which that's good to know also. But it's not really meaningful unless you can actually pick up a chart and say, okay, I already know what sun in the third house is, but what does my friend's chart have? So it doesn't really become meaningful unless you already know how to kind of read a chart. Okay?
Okay.
So I'll teach you guys this in this class for now, and then I'll answer any questions in regards to that. But I want to quiz you guys on this. If we have time, then we'll also go over the Venus class, which I already have set up for you guys. But I want to make sure you guys know the most fundamental elementary aspects of astrology, which is knowing how to actually read a chart in terms of where the signs are and where the houses are. Okay? So I'll start. So this is the little line means the lagna, which means the ascendant. That's the first house of the chart.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll be a long line like this, or like this, or sometimes it'll say LG or AS or ASC. In
Okay.
this chart, it says there's just a little line. And then you go clockwise. So this is the first house. So then always this is the second house. And clockwise, first house, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house, sixth house, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So right away you want to know this is Mars. What house is it in? You can count backwards. 12, 11. So Mars is in the 11th house. Right here you have Sun and Mercury. You want to know what house they're in. You can count backwards. 12, 11, 10. They're in the 10th house. Venus and Jupiter are here. You can go immediately opposite the sign, and that's the 7th house. And then you can count from there 7, 8. So it's in the 8th house. Or the similar with Sun and Mercury, you can count instead of starting from number 1 and counting all the way, you save time. You go 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's in the 10th house. And then you go 1, 2, 3. Saturn's in the 3rd, and Moon and Rahu are in the 7th house. Okay? So I'm going to open a different chart, and then I'm going to quiz you just on where the houses are. This should be easy. Okay. Um, So,
Yeah.
any you guys can answer at any time. So, what house is the moon sitting in?
House.
2, 3, 4. Fifth house. Oh,
No,
House.
you said 5, right?
I said 5.
Yeah. Um,
1,
no, so it's not the 5th
6,
house.
6. Sorry, 6.
Yes, 6th house. Okay, Sandeep, what house is Venus in?
Ninth house.
Yes. Yotsna, what house is Saturn in?
5th house.
Yes. Sandeep, what house is Sun in?
Seventh house.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so you guys got that part.
Yeah.
So let's get a different
He
chart
was born
here.
on Ekadashi.
I'm sorry?
He was born on Ekadashi.
Yeah, if the moon was in Ekadashi, then yes, he was. It says right here the Tithi
Yeah.
where he was born. I like that. Most software will tell you, but they all tell you in different locations. I like this one. You can just see it right in front. You don't have to search for it. Okay. So we'll do one more. Okay. So what house is Jupiter in?
Second house.
Second house.
Yes. What house is Rahu in?
10th house. 11th house.
Which one?
Rahu is in 11th house.
11th house, yes. Yotsna, what house is Mars in?
Twelfth house. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Yes, 12th house. Sandeep, what house is Moon in?
7th house.
Yes, 7th house. And Yotsna, what house is K2 in?
5th house.
Yep. And K2 and Rahu always are opposite each other. One is the south node of the moon, one is the north node. Rahu's the north node of the moon, K2 is the south node. And they are always opposite each other, and they're always in retrograde. Most of the time, they're in retrograde. Sometimes they actually do move forward, but we'll
So
just
that's the
assume they're,
astrology term.
yes, retrograde.
Opposite to each other. Okay.
Now, when a planet is retrograde, it'll actually have a little R or it'll have parentheses around it. When a planet is retrograde. Let me see if I can open a chart with a retrograde. Yes. Okay, so in this chart, it has a big R next to it. So when it's retrograde, there's a big R next to it. But Rahu and Ketu are always retrograde, so they're not going to have that big R. They're just automatically going backwards. Whereas these planets are usually going this way in movement. They usually go clockwise. Ketu and Rahu are going backwards always. Unless the planets in the chart say retrograde, then in that moment they're going backwards when the person was born. Okay. So now let's practice the signs. But you guys have to know what the signs are so that when you open a random chart, you know exactly what sign K2, Mars, and Jupiter are in. Can you guys take a guess? What sign is K2, Mars, and Jupiter in this chart?
Not sure exactly.
Yeah, so you guys should be able to know right away. Moon is in Pisces. Like right away, you should know what sign the planets are in. Right away, you
Okay.
should know that there's 4 planets in Aquarius. That means this person has strong Aquarius attributes. And you should know this person has strong Leo because he has 3 planets in Leo. And you should know that Saturn is in his own sign in Capricorn. That doesn't make just any Saturn, but this is a special Saturn because Saturn is in Capricorn. So he becomes good for the chart because he's in his own sign. Okay, and you should know that he has Moon in Pisces. That means he's idealistic and he has high universal ideals, and he's compassionate and devotional and mystical, and he has those qualities, which are Pisces qualities. So the first thing to know is which signs the planets are in. Then after that, you guys start becoming comfortable with the attributes of each sign. And that's something you can do on your own time. And we'll be going through those attributes in the classes anyway. But it's good to know just some, like 3 keywords for each sign. That way you automatically know what that person has. When they have Moon in Pisces, 3 keywords of Pisces are devotional, mystical, compassionate, so idealistic. So you can already tell that this person has those qualities. They have 4 planets in Aquarius. So this person is intellectual, humanitarian, progressive thinker, independent. Those are qualities of Aquarius. The 11th house is similar to Aquarius. So this person, they're humanitarian, they love networking, they love groups. So you guys should know this right away as soon as you know. You're not even reading the charts yet. You're not even knowing what planets are aspecting what houses. But you already have a lot of information just knowing what signs the planets are in. Like you already have, just boom, you open a chart, wow, 4 planets in Aquarius. This person, and then 2 planets flanking Aquarius. This person is a social person, social butterfly, because the 11th house and the sign of Aquarius is the house and the sign having to do with groups of people, masses of people, large groups of people. So this person might actually be a public speaker, or they like influencing the masses, or they like forming groups. They like being part of groups. They love networking. They love social media, probably interconnecting with people. You guys should know that right away just by looking at the chart. They have 3 planets in the sign of Leo, Mars, Jupiter, and K2. 2 of these planets are fiery planets, K2 and Mars. And the sign of Leo is fiery. So this guy has passion. So that's one of the things that we'll practice in this class, but it's good to have it in your mind. Just practice at home over and over. Open up a chart and see what signs the planets are in. So let's start with some of the basics. Okay. So in the South Indian chart, the signs never move. The signs are fixed. In the North Indian chart, the houses are fixed, but I know how to read South Indian better, and that's how my brain works, so that's why I'll be teaching the class in South Indian. So the signs are fixed. These signs will never move. This little square is always Gemini. The movable signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Aquarius. These are the common signs: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So, okay. It's easy to remember the signs when you connect them to other signs. So the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So these are houses 1, 5, and 9. These are the trinal houses, and these are the fiery signs. So fiery signs are trinal. They are passionate, and they're about dharma, about having a purpose in life. So Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are fire signs. So you automatically know if a person has a lot of planets in Sagittarius or in Leo or in Aries, this person is driven. They are fiery, they are passionate. Okay? The next signs are earth signs, and that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And the earth signs tend to be very pragmatic and practical people. They tend to be focused on being organized, and they know how to have their feet firm on the ground in a material sense, in the outer world. So Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are the earth signs, and these people have their feet firmly on the ground. So they are driven, but they're driven in a more materialistic and pragmatic way. They want to make sure that the food is on the table first, the bills are paid first, then we can talk about other things. So when when the person has a lot of planets in these signs, in the earth signs, these people are more about materialistic pursuits. They're more about career. They're more about working, work. They're more about accumulating things, especially Taurus. They love accumulating things. Um, and they're ruled by different planets, so that will determine they're similar, but they're also different. It depends on the planet that's ruled by them. Taurus is ruled by Venus, Virgo by Gemini, and Capricorn by Saturn. But they still have that fundamental similarity of the earth sign. The next trinal, and these are houses 2, 6, and 10. These are the Artha houses. And I didn't mention Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius 1, 5, and 9 are the Dharma houses. These are the 4 stations in life, the Purusharthas, the 4 Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So the fire signs are Dharma houses and Dharma signs. The Artha houses are the materialistic, pragmatic, down-to-earth signs, Artha houses. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, houses 2, 6, and 10. That's why these houses are related to money in astrology. When you want to see, they're more related to work. They're also related to finances because obviously work is related to finances. But these are related to work. If the person has a job, if they're looking for a job, you would look at the Artha houses 2, 6, and 10, or you look at the signs Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. If they're running a planet in one of these signs, then they probably will have a job pretty soon. Or if they're running a planet in the 2nd house, 6th house, or 10th house. Artha. The 3rd house is Kama houses. Kama means desire. Those are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Houses 3, 7, 11. These are the Kama houses. These are the houses of desire. Usually we fulfill our desires through other people. So the houses and the signs, 3 Gemini, 7 Libra, and 11 Aquarius are related to other people. Gemini are related to younger siblings, and they're related to neighbors and people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, acquaintances. 7th house is related to partnerships, business partnerships, romantic partnerships. And the 11th house Aquarius is related to groups of people, large groups and clubs, book clubs, or when you're organizing a group for for a purpose, for a study group or anything. That's all the 11th house. Or when you're speaking in front of people, or just networking in general. So the desires are fulfilled through other people. These are the desire houses. The 11th house is also the house of hopes and wishes, fulfilling our dreams and desires. These houses fulfill our desires in a different way. Third house fulfills our desires in our day-to-day life, like our day-to-day desires. Like I want a coffee right now. So you go to Starbucks and you get a coffee. Or I feel like eating chocolate. So you commute, you go to the store and it's about commuting. The 7th house is about fulfilling business, one-on-one partnership desires, romantic relationships, business contracts, like having clients, and that kind of one-on-one relationship. And the 11th house is about fulfilling your desires that are achieved through large groups of people, like writing a book that a lot of people read, influencing large groups of people, or easy gains, like having money come to you through writing that book that just suddenly that income just flows. So the 11th house is also a house for money. Now the 4th house, and the 4th, 8th, and 12th are the moksha houses. Are Dustana houses. They are houses and having to do, and signs also having to do with letting go. So anything having to do with these signs or these houses are about learning to let go, or changing through transformation for Scorpio, or just the ultimate bliss of all of higher consciousness for Pisces. Letting go of the mundane and opening up to higher consciousness. And the 4th house is also a moksha house. That is, it's also about endings. The 4th house is more about endings that are like day-to-day endings. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of like graduating. That's an ending. So it's the ending of one phase of your life and the beginning of another. That's why it's also an educational house. It's about short-term endings, like when you finally finish a project or things like that. So it's also a moksha house. Now, I already covered the 4 Dustana. So if you guys remember the first 4, and you guys connect these with their other planets, then it's easy to remember which signs these are. Although in the beginning you will have to memorize. You have to know these 12 signs by memory. But it's easy to remember them if you connect them. Is it a Dharma sign? Is it a Artha? Is it a Kama, or is it a Moksha sign?
Can we complete the 8th and 12th moksha houses?
Oh yeah. You said, because I only talked about the endings of the 4th house. So the endings of the 8th and 12th house are about bigger endings. So like the 8th house can be death of a person, and the 12th house can also be death. But the 12th house is more about the afterlife. So like the 4th house is short-term endings. The 8th house is sometimes about the ending of life. And the 12th house is the spiritual life after death. That's why it's also connected with dreams. It's connected with the astral world, and the spirits on the other side. Now, it's different because the 8th house is also connected with spirits because it's the occult, the house of the occult. But the endings having to do with these houses have to do with the afterlife. So if you see a person that has a lot of planets in Scorpio or in the 8th house or in the 12th house, this person, it doesn't mean their life is going to end during that planetary cycle. What it means is they have a connection to the other world. They have an automatic connection to the afterlife. If it's the 12th house, they have a deep connection to the subconscious mind, to their dreams, or to astral entities. Maybe they can see astral entities, or they're psychic. People who have a lot of Scorpio and Pisces planets, or 8th and 12th house, they're psychic. They can be, or if the 8th lord is on the ascendant, or the 12th lord is on the ascendant. These people can also be psychic. They can see spirits. They can receive messages through dreams. They can be good channelers. They have a pathway. They have a gateway towards the other world, the astral world. So people with a lot of Scorpio or 8th house planets they can be good researchers because they know how to get deep. They know how to dig deep because the 8th house is also about the underworld or underground or things that are buried, things that are rooted deep, things that are related to roots, to the underground, to the underworld. And so it's also, the 8th house is also endings in terms of sudden changes. It's a transformation. It's a transformational change. So usually, because we live in the third dimension, we live in a material world, we usually think of endings as catastrophic, and they're usually emotionally challenging. However, if we look at it from a higher spiritual perspective, the endings only means the beginning of something new. And in the beginning, we might not see the benefit of it. But once time goes on, if we look at it from a higher perspective, let's say you look at it for 10 years from now, or you look 10 years ago, something ended 10 years ago, but 10 years have passed and you realize, actually, I'm glad that ended because if that wouldn't have ended, I wouldn't have gotten this. So like if I wouldn't have gotten fired from that one job, then I actually wouldn't have this great, amazing job that I have right now. Or if that relationship wouldn't have ended, I wouldn't have met this wonderful partner that I have now. So the 8th house is about sudden changes, sudden endings, but it also means the beginning of something new. So it's really important to look at it from different perspectives when you're looking at it in that aspect in terms of endings. Did you guys have any particular questions?
I mean, you said like people people who have this more number of planets in 4, 8, and 12 locations will be psychic. I mean, do you mean that they are mentally a bit weak or emotionally imbalanced?
So that would be an advanced um, an analysis of a chart.
Okay.
Yes, that is possible. It depends how the planets are arranged in that chart, or if there's
Okay.
afflicted planets. So yes, of course, because let's say the person has a lot of 12th house or 8th house planets and they have schizophrenia. well, they have a deep connection to the other world, right? They probably can see spirits and hear real voices that we think medically that it's just their brains, but they probably have a deep connection to the other side. However, they probably have no influence of Earth planets. Like they have to have their feet on the ground to be able to not be mentally unstable. So it's there has to be a balance, but if there's affliction, like deep-rooted affliction without any stabilizing aspects, maybe without the aspect of Jupiter, without a planet, in the earth signs, then or in the 10th house, the 10th house is a good stabilizing house, or in the not just the 10th house, but in houses 1, 4, 7, and 10, which are the Kendras, the angular houses, then yes. So you just have to know how to analyze the chart. You have to take everything into account. So right now we're just doing baby steps, but yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
you would see maybe schizophrenia or mental instability in the 8th and 12th houses. Or even the 4th house, emotional
Yeah.
instability.
Okay. I mean, like it's this fourth house is related to some people say that fourth house is related to marriage. Uh, is that true? Fourth house is related to marriage?
Oh yeah, because the 4th house is the house of the family
Oh, okay.
and
Okay.
the domestic happiness. Now, the 4th house is ruled by Moon, and the
Yeah.
moon is represented by the mother, by the
Yeah.
feminine aspect. And the moon, being the mother, she nurtures. And in order to nurture, you have to have a home to be able to nurture in. So the 4th house represents the home of the mother. The mother usually stays at home and nurtures her children. So the 4th house has to do with the mother nurturing her children, nurturing the family through cooking. So the 4th house also has to do with cooking, through taking care of the household duties. But in order to, obviously, when people get married, that's what they want. They want a family, they want a house. They usually want to buy a house together. So yeah,
Hmm.
the 4th house has to do with domestic happiness. How is the
Okay.
married life? How is that going to be in the home? So that's why the 4th house has to do with marriage.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know whether it is advanced question or something like the next episode is the same. Uh, some people say that moon is very weak in the chart. How they'll decide that the moon is weak in the chart or strong or some graha which is weak or strong in the chart?
So that's a very good question, and that actually helps us go into the next step. Um, so I'll let you guys practice at home if you guys
Mm.
can remember these signs, okay? So
Okay.
one of the ways to know that a planet is weak or strong is to know what sign it is in. That is very important. That's why as soon as you look at a chart, you want to know what sign the planet is in. Now, the planets will be exalted or debilitated. So that's why it's good to know where they're placed. Okay, so let's start with Aries. So basically, Mars will be Swa in Aries or Scorpio. Okay, and it will be debilitated in Cancer. And Nietzsche is debilitated. So it will be exalted in Capricorn. So right away, you guys should know these 4 signs are attributed in connection to Mars. Mars will be Swa in Aries or Scorpio, and it will be Nietzsche in Cancer or Capricorn. Okay. Um, So if you see Mars in Cancer, that means the person, it's Nietzsche, it's
Nietzsche.
debilitated. There's also cancellation of debilitation, and we'll look into that later. But for now, if it's debilitated, even though it gets cancellation, they still will have initial troubles in the beginning of that planet's, of that cycle or of that person's life. Usually when Mars is in Cancer, the person had a difficult childhood or they had some trauma during childhood while growing up. Because Cancer is the sign of the home. It's the house, it's the sign where you grow up, your early childhood. So if Mars is there, then something aggressive happened in that person's life during their childhood. And you automatically know that if you look at a chart and you see Mars in Cancer. Then they must have had childhood abuse or some trauma. Maybe in school they were victimized, they were bullied in school or in their home environment. There were arguments in the house, maybe, or they were, something happened when they were young. So that stays with them. If they have cancellation Nichabanga, then they overcame it and the debilitation in Mars and Cancer actually gave them the catalyst for growth. So later I'll teach you guys how to be able to tell Nichabanga, but some of the, like a quick rule of thumb, if Mars is angular or if Mars is angular from the Lagna or from the moon, then there's cancellation, there's Nichabanga. Or if it's aspected by moon. If Mars is with moon in Cancer, then there's Nichabanga. So there's a few ways to know if there's Nichabanga. Or if moon is in Capricorn aspecting Mars, then there's Nichabanga. That means the person knows how to overcome the trauma that they went through later in life. So they actually use it as a catalyst for success later in life. And then Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Usually when Mars is in Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn has to do with career. It's the 10th house of the chart, and the 10th house has to do with career and success in career. So when Mars is in Capricorn, the person uses their drive. Mars is a fiery planet. Mars is driven. Mars has energy. Mars has a lot of passion and drive and desire, strong desire. They will use that strong, passionate drivenness of Mars in career or in their work. So they tend to be good at something, whatever it is that they choose to focus their energies on. It depends how it's influenced, what house it is, but they tend to be successful in life. Okay? And when Mars is in Scorpio or in Aries, then obviously that's also good for Mars. That means they know how to channel their Mars energy in a productive way, in a way that will make them successful in any endeavor that they choose. It depends what endeavor it is. Like let's say Mars is in the 12th house in Scorpio, then they're going to use their Martian driven energy for 12th house matters, which is spirituality, enlightenment, inner work, yoga, any type meditation, any type of inner work that spurs on their spiritual growth. So it depends where Mars is. It's not always a success having to do with career or with money, but sometimes the success could be inner spiritual work. But Mars is the planet of success and drivenness, drive, desire. So you already know that when it's in its own house. Now, Taurus is in its own sign in Taurus. Sorry, did I say Taurus? Venus is in its own sign in Taurus and Libra. Okay, so Venus is doing good in Taurus. It will be Swa, it's in its Swa Rashi in Taurus. And when it's in Taurus, Venus knows how to accumulate money, knows how to save money in the bank, knows how to be resourceful, likes collecting things, might become a collector of things. But when Venus is in Taurus, because he's in its own sign, the person will also be charming and artistic, possibly. They may even have a knack for music, so they may be singers or musicians or dancers or artists, um, or but they are also good with material things. Usually with any planets that are in the sign of Taurus. It doesn't matter what planet it is, but a special planet, the ascendant, the moon, the sun, or Venus. The person is about accumulating, about acquiring. They want to acquire things. So usually a person with Venus, even if they're on a spiritual path, a person with Venus and Taurus, they still need to go through the path of acquiring before they know how to let go. So this person is not necessarily the one that's going to be the renunciate yogi that goes to the woods and forsakes the world. Planets in Taurus means the person has to learn to acquire before they can detach and renounce. So Venus is Rashi is in Libra and Taurus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. This is a beautiful placement of Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So when person has Venus in this place, then they can be healers also. They can definitely be artistic, musicians, or they can also be mystics. So they can be like, do you guys know Shakira? She's a very famous artist and singer, and she has
Yep.
Venus in the first house in Pisces. So she's very good, very talented. But the person can also be a healer because the sign of Pisces is a compassionate, idealistic sign. They want to help the humanity at large. They have universal love for people. So people with Venus here may also become they they may heal through their they may heal in different ways. So they may heal others through art, or they may heal others literally through hands-on healing, through Reiki, or they may heal in different ways. Libra and Taurus may also be healers if the planet is also in an angular sign. And Venus is debilitated in Virgo. When Venus is in Virgo, it is uncomfortable in that sign because Venus is the planet of love and affection and emotions. But the sign of Virgo is a very earthy sign. Like I said, it's an earth sign ruled by Mercury. So people with Venus here tend to intellectualize their emotions. They tend to analyze their emotions. They tend to be more detached. Instead of feeling their emotions, they tend to think their emotions. So that's why it makes it hard for partners to understand them, because they tend to overanalyze and overthink their emotions. And they might overanalyze and overthink their partners and their partnerships. And then a person with Venus here might also they might also be very sensual and very sexual, especially if it's aspected by Saturn or Mars. Because since the person becomes emotionally detached in the sign of Virgo, which the sign of Virgo is a detachment sign, you tend to analyze and detach and compartmentalize. So people with Venus here, they know how to compartmentalize their emotions. So it's easy for them to just have the physical aspect of Venus, like the physical sexual aspect of Venus without the emotions there. So they know how they easily are able to detach from relationships, so they might get into a series of relationships just because they know how to detach easily. Okay. Now Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury rules the sign of Gemini and the sign of Virgo. And the sign of Gemini is an air sign, and the sign of Virgo is a earth sign. So when Mercury is in Gemini in the air sign, then the person tends to have abstract thinking. They're very intellectual. They're all about communication. And they love learning. They're very curious people. They love learning and reading and analyzing and thinking. They're good at math, etc. And the same thing when Mercury is in Virgo. So when Mercury is in any of its own signs, and it's exalted in the sign of Virgo also, then the person is a very good analytical thinker, and they know how to categorize and analyze and communicate as well. And they're good writers. So anything that has to do with Mercury, writing, communication, thinking, intellectualizing, and it's debilitated in Pisces because the sign of Pisces is more about universal, about seeing the forest, but Mercury knows how to just see the trees. Like Mercury wants to count how many trees there are in the forest, and Pisces doesn't care about how many trees there are. Pisces just sees the whole forest and sees the beauty of it, and so Pisces will see the beauty of the universe. But Mercury, because it rules Virgo and Gemini, wants to analyze every little detail, wants to categorize the trees and put certain trees in this category and other trees in this, and he's really good at that. And mathematically wants to analyze and categorize, and statistics, and it's all about that. So that's why when Mercury's in Pisces, he cannot function that way as easily. He's not comfortable seeing the forest, so it becomes more challenging to categorize, to analyze, to do statistics, to do math. The person is more about intuition. So if you ask them a question like what's 8 times 12, they will intuit the answer. They won't do the answer analytically. They won't do the calculation in their brain analytically. It'll come to them through intuition. Watch just 1 second. My baby just woke up. Okay. Now, and you guys might hear my baby because he's trying to fall asleep again in my arms.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's go to Cancer. So Moon rules Cancer, and Moon is exalted. Oops, I should use a different color. Moon is exalted in, sorry, hold on. Okay, so moon is in its own sign in Cancer. Moon is exalted in Taurus, and moon is debilitated in Scorpio. Okay, so moon is when moon is in Cancer, moon knows all about nurturing others, and usually there's emotional stability because the person knows how to express their emotions and how to nurture. So when moon is in Taurus, moon is exalted, and moon moon is exalted in Taurus because it puts its feet firmly on the ground. Moon is a very changeable and fickle planet, so to speak. Because in the sky, moon changes every day. Moon is in a different nakshatra every single day of the week. And so, because moon is in a different nakshatra and it changes signs every 2.5 days, then moon tends to be very fickle and very changeable. So it's not necessarily stable. It needs some stabilizing ground. So Taurus will give moon that stabilizing ground. So it's exalted in Taurus. It feels comfortable there. And then Taurus is ruled by Venus. So moon, Venus is also about the emotional nature, and moon is about the emotional nature. They express their emotions in a different way. Moon is about nurturing in a motherly way, and Venus is about nurturing the emotional relationship. It's about love and romantic nurturing the partnership. But moon feels comfortable in Taurus because it's also ruled by Venus. So, and then moon is debilitated in Scorpio. Um, moon moon is debilitated in Scorpio because moon is already changeable. Moon already changes every day. And the sign of Scorpio is about sudden changes. It's about sudden transformation, things that happen unexpectedly in a person's life. And moon feels unstable in that sign. It doesn't want sudden unexpected changes because moon is the mind and the emotions. So moon wants to have stability. That's what it seeks. The mind seeks stability. The mind has too many thoughts running around 24/7, and it depends where the moon is placed as to how the person knows how to control one's own thoughts. But when moon is in Scorpio, Scorpio is already a very intense sign. It's about intensity and passion, and it wants to know things, but it wants to know things deeply. And it wants to have control over things, but it's difficult to have control when things change suddenly and you don't expect them to change. So the person who has moon in Scorpio, they want to have control, but they fear the change, but the change is inevitable. And they feel things more intensely than other people. So when moon is in Scorpio, the person might be hard for the person to let go of things. They hold on to things more for a longer period of time than anybody else. Like they might remember something that happened 5 years ago and they still can't let it go. They hold they can hold grudges because the sign of Scorpio is intense and deep, and so people tend to feel things more intensely, more deeply. And that's one of the learning lessons of Moon and Scorpio is learning how to forgive and forget. And that's one of the things about Moon in Scorpio. One of the life lessons. It's
Yeah, Monica, I just want to recall this. If the moon is in Cancer, uh,
Moon. You said Moon in Cancer.
yeah. I just forgot. It is favorable, right? If the moon is in Cancer, it is stable, and even it is a flickering planet, but it is happy to stay in the in Cancer.
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah,
Moon in Cancer it's in its own sign, but it
yeah.
depends on the influence on the moon. So you have to just know what is influencing the moon. Like let's say moon is in Cancer, but Saturn is in Gemini and Mars is in Leo, then it's flanked by two malefics. It won't be as stable. It'll have more fear involved. Or it's with Mars and Saturn and Rahu. So you have to just see what is influencing the moon.
Okay.
But just moon in general in Cancer is good. It means the person knows how to give and receive nurturance and affection.
Okay.
Now the sun will be did you guys have more questions about the moon? Now there's a lot to talk about with the moon too, because the moon is involved in a lot of yogas. Um, but for now, just know what sign is exalted and debilitated in. It's exalted in Taurus, debilitated in Scorpio, in its own sign in Cancer. So I gave you guys 4 planets. Now I'm going to quiz you guys. No, I didn't give you guys the sun yet. I gave you Mars. Let me write down Mars.
Yeah. No.
I didn't do Mars here. So let's quiz you guys here. So where is Mars exalted?
Mars
Somebody.
exalted.
First of
Aries
all,
in Scorpio.
so that's the SWA for Mars. Aries and
Yeah.
Scorpio.
Yeah.
So Mars is SWA, Rashi is Aries and Scorpio. Now where is Mars Ucha?
Sure, did not write actually.
Remember what I said about success and being driven?
Yeah, it is in the 10th. 10th means just a
So
moment.
which was
Capricorn.
the yes,
Capricorn, yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why Mars is actually exalted in the 10th sign, which is Capricorn, and it gets Digbala in the 10th house as well. So whether it's in the 10th house or in the 10th sign, Mars is performing excellently for material affluence and success. That's why it's exalted in Capricorn. Just imagine the 10th sign. Imagine Mars is in the 10th house. It's it's using its drivenness for success and career. It's really good in that house.
Yeah.
Monica,
Yes.
Ucha means debilitated, right?
No, Ucha means exalted.
The exalted. Okay.
And
Oh,
Nicha means
Nicha means
debilitated.
debilitated.
Means
Yes.
strong and weak.
Yes. So where is Mars weak? Where is Mars Nicha?
Scorpio and Cancer.
No. Nicha.
Which, I hope it's only Cancer.
Yeah, only Cancer.
Yeah.
Because Mars rules Scorpio. Mars is
Yeah.
strong
Yeah.
in Scorpio.
Yeah, it's related to yoga and inner work and spiritual growth, you said. So it
Uh,
concentrates on those things if it is in Scorpio.
yeah, well, if it is in Scorpio, it depends what house it is in. So it'll be good for the house that it is in if it's in
Yeah,
Scorpio.
yeah.
What about Cancer? Why is it Nietzsche in Cancer?
Um, because Mars does not leave anything. It does. It's not something related to detachment. Uh, the fourth place is related to domestic happiness. It means that Mars destroys the fourth house, so it destroys the domestic happiness.
Yes.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm.
And if you see someone with Mars in Cancer, what would you think that about that
Yeah,
person's early life?
yeah. It means that his education will not be good, his family relationship will not be good, and domestic happiness will be in vain, and he'll
And
not be ready to the changes.
they might have got some mental, emotional issues when in their childhood.
Yes, they might have had some trauma in early childhood. And they might have had trauma in their early family life as well. Unless it's Nichabanga, then they might still have had the trauma, but they were able to overcome
His
through
moon is present.
personal growth. Just 1 second, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, sure.
Okay, hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, it's because my laptop was running
Dying.
was dying. So I had to recharge it. Just 1 second, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the next planet here. What about Venus? Which one's the Swa Rashi of Venus?
Varashi is Taurus and Libra.
Yes. And Yotsna, which one's Ucha and Nicha Rashi of Venus?
Um,
Where is Venus exalted?
Virgo? No, I think it's Mercury which is exalted. Virgo.
Yeah, my Mercury is exalted. Venus. Venus is weak in Virgo. I mean, it is deliberated in Virgo.
Yes, it's Nicha and Virgo. And where is it exalted?
Pisces.
Yes. So Venus is debilitated in Virgo. It's exalted in Pisces, and his own signs are Taurus and Libra.
Yes.
And why is Venus debilitated in Virgo?
Uh, because it's something related to overthinking or too much of emotions and uh, frequent detachment from relationships. It is related to the physical aspects, as you told. So
Perfect.
yeah, too much of analysis on things.
Yes, on things related to emotions.
Yes.
So
Hey,
it
Monica,
mm-hmm.
I have a question. Is this thing? I think you have told, or I missed it already. Is Ucha and Nicha are always like retrograde all the time?
No, Ucha means if the planet is exalted in a particular sign.
No, they always like in opposite houses.
Uh, sometimes. Let's take a look here. So not always because Mars is no, okay, maybe they are. Hold on, let's take a look. So Mars is Ucha in Capricorn, Nicha in Cancer, and that's opposite houses. And Venus is Ucha in Pisces, Nicha in Virgo, and that's opposite houses.
Opposite. Yes.
The moon is Ucha. Yes, this is opposite house also. The moon is Ucha in Taurus, Nicha in Scorpio. That's opposite. And
Yes.
then Ver
Mercury.
Mercury
Mercury.
is Nicha in Pisces and Ucha in
Virgo.
Virgo. That's
Yeah.
opposite. So far they've been opposite houses so far.
Okay.
Yes, very good. They are in opposite so far. So let's see. The
Sun.
sun is in Swarashi and Leo. The
Okay.
sun is Ucha in Aries, Nicha in Libra. So that's
Opposite.
opposite. Yes. Now, what's the next one?
So Sun is
Jupiter.
Ucha Swara only in Leo, only
Mm-hmm.
in one
Only
house.
in Leo because it only owns one house, and the moon only owns one house also.
Okay. Okay.
So the sun is, yes, it's Ucha in Aries, Swa in Leo, and Nicha in Libra. And let's go to the next one, Jupiter. Jupiter is, here, let me just add Jupiter here. So Jupiter, his Swarashi, what's Jupiter's Swarashis? What signs does Jupiter rule?
I hope it's the fifth place, Leo.
No. So Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius.
Oh, that's Jupiter is the strongest planet, and it's like 12th is like Pisces.
Expansiveness.
Yeah.
Jupiter's about expansiveness, and the 12th house Pisces is about expansion and universal compassion.
Pisces and
And Jupiter is a
Sagittarius.
religious planet, right? Jupiter's a spiritual planet, and it rules the 9th house, which is the highest Dharma house. That's the reason you thought it was the Leo, and that's actually a good guess because Leo is a Dharma house. And
Yes.
actually, Jupiter and the Sun are very good friends because they rule Dharma house, the natural Dharma houses. Jupiter and Mars are also very good friends. So if you see them together, that's a good combination because they're friends in a chart. And we'll talk about friends and enemies a little later. But for now,
Yeah.
where is Jupiter Ucha exalted? So Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and it's Nicha. Where do you guys think?
Aquarius.
Right here?
Capricorn?
Yes.
Capricorn. It's opposite, remember?
Yeah, opposite. Yeah, Capricorn.
So
Angular. Yes.
it's Capricorn. It's Ucha in Cancer, which means it's Capricorn is its Nicha. And let's do one more. Saturn. What is Saturn's Swarashi? What signs does Saturn rule?
I hope it's Sagittarius.
No, it rules Aquarius and Capricorn.
Aquarius and Capricorn. 10 and 11.
Yeah, and actually Rahu also rules Aquarius. I also see Aquarius as being ruled by Rahu because Aquarius is so different from Capricorn. Aquarius has a lot of the qualities of Rahu. It's the 11th house, it's the house of expansion and abundance, and Rahu is also about expansion and abundance in a different way than Jupiter, but it's also it expands whatever it influences. And the 11th house is a Kama house, which is a desire house, and Rahu is a desire planet. So Rahu also rules Aquarius. So they both rule Aquarius, Saturn and Rahu. So where is Saturn Ucha? Where is it exalted? In Libra. So where is it Nicha?
Aries?
Yep. Yes, it's exalted
Aries.
in. So you are right, Jyotsna. Every single,
Yes.
they're exalted and debilitated opposite each other.
Nice observation.
Yep. So I didn't talk about the sun. Let's go back to the sun. So the sun is actually the opposite of Saturn. The sun is Ucha. It's exalted in Aries and debilitated in Libra. And Saturn is the opposite. And they're not friends. Saturn and the sun are not friends. And they're opposite each other, here. So they're opposite each other in the chart, which means they're enemies. They're arch enemies. And if you look at the opposite signs like Taurus and Scorpio, Mars and Venus are not friends either. If you look at the opposite, Gemini and Sagittarius, Mercury rules Gemini, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. They're not friends. So planets that are opposite each other, they're not friends. The friends are the signs that are in the 5th and 9th houses from the planet, from the sign. So like the friend of Mars are the planets that rule the 5th house, which is Leo. Who rules Leo?
Sun?
Yes. And who rules Sagittarius?
Can Mercury? No.
Jupiter.
Jupiter. Yes.
So that's why. So why are Leo and Sagittarius? Why are Sun, who rules Leo, and Jupiter, who rules Sagittarius, why are they friends of Mars? Mars rules Aries. Why are Leo and Sagittarius friends for the Aries ascendant?
159.
Yes, they rule the Dharma.
Dharma.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1,000.
Any house that is in the 5th or the 9th, those are lucky houses. Those are the Lakshmi Sthanas. Lakshmi Sthanas are the 5th house and the 9th house. And the Vishnu Sthanas are the angular houses, the angles. So The 4th house, the 7th house, and the 10th house are angles. Okay, so now why is we'll finish the sun for now. Why is the sun debilitated in Libra? Well, let's talk about first why it's exalted in Aries. The sun is exalted in Aries. First of all, it is a fiery planet. It's not a planet, but we call them planets in astrology. It's a fiery sign. Aries is a fiery sign. So the sun feels very comfortable in Aries. It loves Aries. It's exalted in Aries because the sun is also about drivenness and passion. It's a Dharma planet. It rules a natural Dharma house, the 5th house. So the sun is a Dharma planet. Just like Mars, Mars is also a Dharma planet. Mars in the 1st house, it's the first Dharma house. So it's also a Dharma planet. It's about passion and having a purpose in life and being driven to fulfill that purpose. So when sun is in Aries, it acquires fire and passion, and it acquires Dharma for whatever purpose it wants to fulfill. It depends what house it is. Sometimes it wants to fulfill the purpose of the home, or it wants to, and that if it was in the 4th house. So it depends what house it is in, but it wants to fulfill that purpose with drive and energy. And then so it's exalted. Another reason, which I already mentioned in a different class, because it's the 1st house and the sun likes to be about me. It's about me, right? The sun, all the planets revolve around the sun. So the sun likes to be the center of attention. In the 1st house, it's about me, right? It's about individuation. It's about the 1st house is about the individual. It's about the personality. It's about your own self. So the sun, when it's in the 1st house, it's about me. They are good at being the center of attention. They want to be the boss. They want to give executive orders because they're the ones that are in charge. It's about me. They want to rule. They want to, and they're good at it. And they have passion to do it. They have the driven desire to do it. The reason it's Nietzsche and Libra is because Libra is the sign of harmony and balance. It has the scales. The scales are the symbol for Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus. And what is Venus about? Venus is about harmony and love, and it's about relationships. So the sun is debilitated in Libra because the sun doesn't know really how to function in a relationship. The sun wants to be in charge and it wants to rule. So when the sun is in Libra, in a person's chart, then that person is learning how to compromise, and it's learning how to defer to other people. And that person is learning about balance, about how it's not only about me, but it's also about you. It's also about other people. So when the sun is in Libra, it's debilitated because it's learning the lessons of how to balance, how to have equality, how to have energy exchange between people, between itself and other people. It's learning how to balance the giving and taking. It's learning how to give and receive in an equal fashion, because when sun is in Aries, it's only about receiving. It likes to give because it likes to be chivalrous, and Aries, it wants to be the hero. But it's still about me. Like, look at me, I'm the hero. I'm the one who's I'm the one who is saving the world, right? It's dharmic, it's passion. It has passion and dharma and fire. It wants to save the world. In Leo and Sagittarius also. But in Libra, it's learning about the mundane reality, about learning how to actually compromise. So that's why it's debilitated there, but it's not a bad placement because the person is learning about compromise. So the Saturn is opposite. The Saturn is actually debilitated in Aries, and it's exalted in Libra. Now, from Capricorn, Libra rules the 10th house, and from Aquarius, it rules the 9th house. So Saturn feels very comfortable in the 10th and 9th. Saturn is actually about compromise because Saturn is the servant, right? Out of all the planets, Saturn is the one that serves. He's the one that works every day. He works, works, works. He doesn't get tired of working. He perseveres. He takes his time. He's loyal. He's devoted. He's about the long-term commitment. And so Saturn in Libra knows about how to compromise and about equality because Saturn is the planet that has to do with the people, with grassroots, right? Saturn is about the people, and because Saturn rules an earth sign, right? But Saturn does well also in the sign of Virgo because Saturn is the servant. So Saturn knows how to take care of people. Saturn is about serving people, service to others, taking care of those that are of the low income or the people who are in poverty. That's what Saturn does. So Saturn is about serving others. Saturn in Libra creates harmony for the public, for the people, knows how to create harmony and service to other people. It's about balance and equality. So that's why Saturn is good in Libra, because Libra's about balance and harmony. It's about everybody takes an equal amount. It's not about just me, but everybody takes an equal amount and it's fair for everyone. But Saturn in Aries doesn't feel comfortable because Mars is not about the people. Like, it is about the people, but it's about the people if he's the one who's changing the world and he's the leader and you look up to him as the leader, as changing the world. But Saturn in Aries feels uncomfortable in that position. It doesn't go hand in hand with the energetic Mars because Saturn is the turtle. Saturn wants to take things one day at a time, slowly. Saturn wants to proceed and be meticulous about everything that he takes care of. But Mars is not that way. Mars is impulsive and he wants things yesterday. Mars wants things right now and he doesn't want to wait, and he's impulsive and he takes the world by the horns and he wants to, he's driven and has energy, and Saturn doesn't have those qualities. So Saturn feels uncomfortable by the impulsiveness of Aries. Saturn feels rushed when it's in Aries. Saturn feels like, he's being rushed when he wants to actually take his time. So he doesn't feel comfortable. He doesn't function as well. So people who have Saturn in Aries, they prefer to be self-employed because they don't feel comfortable doing things one thing at a time. They get confused. The Saturn's natural qualities become confused in Aries because now it's like, well, now I want to be impulsive, but I don't because, so there's kind of like a friction between the energies of Saturn and the energies of Aries. So, yeah, so those are I think we covered all the planets.
Yeah.
So did you guys have any questions?
Is there any Rashi for Saturn?
Yes. Saturn is his own sign is Aquarius and Capricorn.
Capricorn and Aquarius. For Sun, it is Leo and?
Just Leo.
For Moon and Sun, they're only one Swarashi.
They only rule one sign. So Sun and Moon, which are called the luminaries, because they shine in the sky the brightest, the luminaries only own one sign, the Sun and the Moon, mother and father. Moon represents mother, Sun represents father. Moon represents female, sun represents male. So the female-male polarity, they only rule one sign. And they're right next to each other. Cancer and Leo.
Moon, sun,
Hey,
Rashi.
Vikas just came in and he wants to talk something about it.
Yes.
Hello, folks. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
How are you doing, Vikas?
Good, good.
We just covered all the planets, their Swarashis and their exaltation and debilitation.
Yeah, I saw that. So I had a little story to say about Swarashis. I think you know about it, but so for the benefit of the people here. So there is a story that goes, um, so if you divide the chart into half, uh, so beginning Cancer, everything above until Aquarius was initially ruled by the moon. And then below Leo and below, everything was ruled by the sun. So because sun, per scripture, sun and moon, they're the only heavenly bodies, and then slowly other planets started forming. So as other planets started forming, the sun and moon, what they did was they assigned the lordship to each planet as they formed. So if you actually trace it back, so the first planet we see from the sun is Mercury. So from Cancer, go back one. From Leo, go back one. So Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury. You get what I mean? Hello?
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Baba. This is Sandeep.
Hey, so you understood what I mean, right? Like how this
Yeah,
lordship
yeah,
is formed. So from
yeah,
Cancer
yeah.
go because all the rashis above Cancer and
Mm.
are ruled by Moon and below Leo are ruled by Sun. So each planet was given lordship by Moon and Sun. So now Gemini and Virgo are ruled by Mercury. If we go one back, now Taurus and Libra. So next planet is Venus. So those two rashis are ruled by Venus. Then go one back, it is Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. And then finally Rahu Ketu came and they didn't have any place in the chart. So, you know, our great notorious planets, Saturn and Mars, they said, okay, we are okay to share our houses. So Mars shared his Scorpio Rashi with Ketu, and that's why Ketu's, sometimes people say Ketu's sign is Scorpio, and then Saturn shared his sign with Aquarius. So Rahu rules Aquarius, and that's how these Swarashis are formed, and that's why each planet owns two Rashis, and poor Sun and Moon they were left with only one. I
Yeah.
hope
Very nice.
yeah I hope this was kind of funny when I initially I heard
Yeah,
about
this
it,
is
but you know but it makes sense, right? When you map our solar system with the chart, it makes sense. Basically from sun and moon you start assigning lordships to each planet from our solar system, and everything maps out.
Yeah, and I like because it helps you remember the signs also when you look at the chart.
Yeah.
The sun and the moon are the king and queen, and then next to it is the merchant, which is Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't remember what the Venus that role plays, but the Venus was next, and then Mars, which is the military. He's and I don't remember what the Sanskrit terms, but this is based on the caste system of India.
Yeah, Varna, right? So Kshatriya.
Kshatriya. So
Yeah.
the Mars
Yeah.
rules the Kshatriya signs, which is
Mm-hmm.
next. And then
Brahmana.
Jupiter, Brahma. Jupiter is the Brahmin, and then Saturn is the servant. So he's a
Shudra.
very
Shudra.
Shudra. So Shudra is at the very end, completely opposite the king and queen, because we were just talking about how Saturn rules the servants, Shudras. And so if you kind of look at it, this is kind of like a kingdom. The king and queen are at the top, and the Shudras are at the very end opposite. And they surround them, but they are in order. Right next to it is Mercury, the merchant, the businessman. I don't remember the placement of Venus. I don't
Me
remember
too. Me too.
the
Because there are only four
Taurus
Varnashrams.
and Libra.
because there's
Yeah.
only 4, yeah.
Yeah, there are only four. Bhavana Chitra, Vishishudra. I don't remember the fifth. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so
Anyways,
I don't
I'll let
remember either,
Jyotsna
but
hear this class because I saw this and I kind of thought it would benefit the students for learning because that
yeah,
helped me
thank
initially
you for
to
sharing
remember.
that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's how I remembered stuff initially and then it came to me naturally.
yeah. So I think I covered all the planets, why they're exalted and debilitated. I think the only one I didn't cover was Jupiter. So where is Jupiter Swa Rashi?
Isis?
Yes, and the other one?
Yes. Sagittarius.
Yes, and where is it? Ucha.
So it's
It's
Cancer.
exalted and debilitated?
Gone?
Capricorn.
Perfect. They're opposite each other. So the reason Jupiter is exalted in Cancer is, well, one of the reasons it rules, Jupiter is one of the rulers of Purna, Jupiter rules Purnavasu, but Jupiter also, each nakshatra has a specific deity, and the deity that rules Pushya is Jupiter, is Guru. So Guru is the deity that rules Pushya, and Pushya's the nakshatra Pushya is in most of the sign of Cancer. It's from 320 degrees to 1640 of Cancer. But Jupiter does very well in the sign of Cancer. It's exalted there because Jupiter is a planet. Because he's a spiritual planet. He also expands. Um, so in the sign of Cancer, he expands the nurturing. Jupiter is a planet of abundance and giving. Jupiter is a charitable planet. And so in the sign of Cancer, because he has the nakshatra of Pushya, Pushya is a very spiritual nakshatra. Pushya gives spiritual fire. So, um, so Jupiter, when it's exalted, but especially when it's in Pushya nakshatra, it's really strong. The Jupiter's spiritual powers come to the front. Jupiter becomes very much more spiritual when it's in Pushya nakshatra, which is in the sign of Cancer. So the spiritual energy comes out when it's in Cancer. Now, the spiritual energy of Jupiter in Capricorn gets toned down because Capricorn is remember we talked about this, is the 10th sign about career. It's about career and wanting success, wanting material success in the world. That's what Capricorn is about. Okay, but Jupiter is a spiritual graha. So Jupiter wants the spiritual aspect. So the spiritual aspect of Jupiter comes out in a material way in Capricorn. So the career becomes the dharma in life. Career and money, financial gains. That's what becomes the dharma in life. So people see spirituality, but not they see the spirituality of materialism. So Jupiter's spirituality becomes channeled in a materialistic way. So it's hard for the person who has Jupiter in Capricorn, it's hard for them to appreciate the true dharmic spirituality of Jupiter in Sagittarius or in Pisces, for example, which is the true spirituality of enlightenment and cosmic consciousness and universal love. Or the spiritual fire of Cancer. But it's hard for them to see that because they're focused on the material aspect of Jupiter. They're mainly focused on the gains, the financial gains. Did you have something to add, Vikas?
He was just here for a few minutes. He just saw that Swarashi and wanted to tell that story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. So did you guys have any questions? Any other questions on the planets and their Ucha and Nicha placements?
Mm, I hope it's clear till now.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so your homework is to memorize and practice what the signs are and where the planets are all exalted and debilitated and what their Swarashis are.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of homework.
It's you already pretty much got it. So let's do a really quick
I have to remember only Ucha or Nicha, then we will get opposite one, obviously.
and the Swa Rashis too.
Yeah.
So
So already know about Sun and Moon.
so
Sun
let's start
and
with Mars. Let's start with Mars. So I think so Jyotsna, we'll start with you. Let's
oh no.
see, we'll give you the quick and if you don't get it then that's okay. We'll keep uh then Sandeep, you can jump in if you want. But okay, so Jyotsna, what are the Swa Rashis of Mars? What does Mars
Aries
own?
and Scorpio.
Yeah. And where is it debilitated?
Um, Debilitated in already forgot Cancer
Yes,
and Capricorn with
exalted.
exalted.
Yeah. So what's a quick way for you to remember where it's debilitated and exalted?
Uh,
So one quick way for you to remember where Mars is debilitated is to think about what does Cancer represent? It represents the family
Fourth
home,
house, yeah.
the fourth house. And Mars doesn't do so well in the family. He does better in career
Mm,
because Mars is a fighter. He's urgent. He has a lot of energy and drive. He's like the sports figure. So Mars, if a person stays at home, they cannot become the famous athlete, right? They cannot become the famous football player or soccer player, which is a career for them. So if you think about Mars and Cancer, Mars in Cancer doesn't function well in the home and the family. So just think about the quality of the planet and what it's not good for. The quality of Mars is drivenness and passion and fire and conquering. Mars wants to conquer, but that's not what you do in the home. In the home you nurture, you don't conquer. In the home you accept unconditionally and you have unconditional love and you give to others, but conquering is about taking. So that's why Mars is exalted in Capricorn, which is an Artha house. It's about taking, and it's debilitated in Cancer, which is about nurturing.
Answer.
Mars doesn't know how to nurture. He only knows how to conquer. That's why he rules Aries, because Aries is about me and conquering, and Scorpio is actually a sign of control,
Yeah,
power
bro.
and control. So that's a quick way to remember. What about Venus? Where does the Swa Rashi of Venus?
Taurus and Libra.
Yes. And Yotsna, where is it debilitated?
debilitated and Venus is debilitated.
Venus
Aquarius,
Venus is about emotions, right? And
emotions,
it's
third
artistic and love and compassion. It doesn't like to analyze, right?
Yeah,
okay.
it's the sixth
Basic
one, that is
love.
Virgo.
So it's debilitated in Virgo because it doesn't like
Yeah.
to analyze. Because Venus is more about love and intuition and compassion. That's why Venus is exalted in
Oops.
Pisces.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's also in
Pisces
Pisces.
Pisces is a sign of compassion and love, and Venus is all about love and compassion. But Venus is debilitated in Virgo because Virgo is the sign of analytical thinking, and Venus doesn't feel comfortable analyzing his emotions. Venus is about feeling the emotions, but when it's Virgo, it's debilitated. because it's not good with analyzing. So just remember that one thing. Venus does not like to analyze. So it's debilitated in Virgo. What's the planet that is the opposite of these two? What's the planet that's Ucha in Virgo and Nicha in Pisces?
Opposite of Venus. Saturn? No. What is the opposite of
Who rules Virgo and Gemini?
Mercury.
Gemini?
Mercury.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Mercury.
Mercury, so on here I guess I got you guys a little bit confused because I said the opposite sign, they're not friends when they're opposite each other. They're not friends. Now, opposite Libra and opposite Taurus is Mars. Their signs ruled by Mars. But Venus and Mercury are also not friends. They're opposite. They're also opposite each other because they're exalted and debilitated in the opposite signs.
But I have a question here. Like, basically, Mercury means Buddha Graha, right? So it is,
Buddha is Mercury.
yeah, it is neither friend nor enemy to Venus. It means that if in a graha, if in a house, if there are more number of positive grahas, then it will become enemy to Venus. Otherwise, it will become friend to Venus. If there
Right.
are
Well,
more negative planets.
that's more advanced. So for now, they're not enemies. You're right. But for now, we'll just stick to why,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
why one of them, I guess that was a bad example to use. I'm just trying to have you guys remember why it's exalted and debilitated in that sign.
Oh,
So
okay.
So I'm trying to give you like a quick, like Yotsna, so for example, Virgo is the debilitation of Venus, but it's the exaltation of Mercury. So if you can remember that Venus and Mercury are opposite each other with their exalted and debilitating signs, then you'll never forget where Venus is exalted and where Mercury is exalted. So they're opposite each other. So where Venus is exalted in Pisces, Mercury is debilitated. And where Mercury is exalted in Virgo, Venus is debilitated. So, again, Venus is exalted in Pisces and debilitated in Virgo. Venus is. And Mercury is the opposite. Mercury is Nietzsche, debilitated in Pisces and exalted in Virgo.
In Virgo, yeah.
So do you think you'll remember that, Yotsna?
Yeah, now I remember. Venus
And
doesn't like analytic minds.
analysis. So if you remember that one rule, Venus doesn't like analyzing. If you remember that one rule, then you'll remember the rest of them. You'll remember, okay, Venus does not like analyzing, which means it's Nietzsche in Virgo. So if you remember that one rule, Venus is debilitated in Virgo, then automatically you know it's exalted in Pisces, and Mercury has the opposite. Right away you'll remember that Mercury is the opposite. Mercury is exalted in Virgo and debilitated in Pisces. If you just remember that, because Mercury does like to analyze, and Mercury feels uncomfortable seeing the whole forest. He wants to count the trees. That's why Mercury's debilitated in Pisces, because he wants to analyze. Okay, so if you just remember that one rule, Venus debilitated in Virgo, you'll remember about Mercury being exalted and debilitated. Now, what about the moon? Where is the moon debilitated and exalted?
Scorpio, it is debilitated in Scorpio and exalted in Taurus.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so what's one good way to remember why it's exalted and debilitated?
The moon does not like sudden changes, and it certainly like it is very difficult to let go of things.
Yes. So if you
it is
remember that moon does not like sudden changes, and Scorpio is about sudden changes, then you'll remember
Yes.
that moon is debilitated in Scorpio, and you automatically know the opposite sign is exalted.
Yes.
So moon does not like sudden changes and sudden transformation. He becomes emotionally like insecure. Like, I don't want these sudden changes. So he becomes, you know, unstable in Scorpio, because Scorpio is about sudden change. Let me give you another example why he's debilitated here. Moon is about nurturing others. Moon likes to nurture other people and wants to give love and unconditional love. But Mars, remember, Mars is a planet of conquering. Mars wants to conquer and control. So the signs of Aries and Scorpio are about conquering and controlling. So people with a lot of planets in Mercury, and not just one, and not in Mercury and Scorpio, people with a lot of planets in Scorpio are about power and control. They want to have the upper hand. It's about calculating and manipulating in a subtle way. They're about secrets, okay? But the moon doesn't want to conquer and control. So if you remember that, the moon is debilitated in Scorpio because the moon does not feel comfortable conquering and controlling. He wants to nurture. When you nurture, you're not trying to control, you're trying to give. When you try to control, it's about receiving. When you try to manipulate, control, have power, you're receiving for yourself. It's a service to self act. But when you're in Cancer, it's a service to others. You're nurturing. So that if you remember that Scorpio is about power and control, moon doesn't feel good there. You'll remember moon is debilitated in Scorpio. Now, what about, let's see, the sun? Oh, did we talk about, let's talk about the sun again. Where is it exalted and where is it debilitated?
Sun is exalted in Aries and it is deliberated in Libra.
Yes, now why? What's one good, how do you remember? Why is it exalted in Aries and why is it debilitated in Libra?
Aries is a fiery sign.
Yes.
Yes, and sun is a fiery science, planet,
Yes.
obviously, right? So why is it exalted in Aries?
Um,
It is more of independent in nature. So
Yes.
it is spiritual and it's more of independent nature and it's fiery. So it likes to stay in one on first house Aries. So it is Ucha in Aries.
So yes, exactly. What you just said is perfect. Aries is about me, right? Because it's the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is similar to the first house, about me, right? The individual person. It's about the individual. And what does sun do in the sky? Well, sun is the center of attention. He gives life, he gives light, obviously. Um, it's a dharmic planet because it's a dharma house. But it's also all the planets revolve around the sun. So the sun likes to be the center of attention. It's about me. Libra is not about me. Libra is about compromise and relationship, because Libra is the natural seventh sign of the zodiac, and the seventh sign has to do with the seventh house, which is relationships. So if you remember that sun wants it to be about me, then you remember it's in the first house, exalted in the first house. And it's debilitated in Libra because it has the trouble. It's learning the lessons of compromise because it's so used to it having being the center of attention. It's learning how to give other people attention. So if you remember that, then you'll remember why it's exalted in Aries, why it's debilitated in Libra. Okay?
Yeah.
Because he's the
Yeah.
center of attention. It's about me. And it's Dharma. It's the first house. So now one more. I think where's Jupiter exalted in, oh, we already talked about Jupiter. Let's talk about, okay, now Saturn. Where is it exalted and debilitated?
Saturn is
Capricorn.
exalted in
Capricorn.
Yeah, Saturn rules Capricorn. And what else does Saturn rule? So the Swa
Rule.
Rashi is Capricorn.
Aquarius,
Aquarius.
That's
10
the
and
other
11.
Swa. And where
Yeah.
is it exalted?
In Libra,
Mm-hmm. And where is it debilitated?
in Aries.
Aries.
Yes. So what's one good way to remember why him and Sun have opposite
Yes.
exaltation, debilitation. Venus and Mars, sorry, Venus and Mercury have opposite exaltation and debilitation. Mars and Moon have opposite, no wait, is it Mars and Moon? Hold on. Well, Moon, it's not the yeah, you can say Mars and Moon, but they're not the opposite exaltation, debilitation from each other, but they rule those houses. For example, and it's interesting because, yeah, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, debilitated in Moon sign. So they're exalted and debilitated in each other's signs. And then Jupiter
Left alone.
is left alone because he doesn't
Yes.
share any.
And I feel like
He,
Jupiter is like a Pierce planet, like highest of all planets.
Yeah.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that. So he's alone and he's like
Yep.
a big, big, big planet
So
of all.
if you remember where Sun is exalted and debilitated, then you'll know where Saturn is exalted and debilitated because they have opposite exaltation, debilitation. So Yotsna, where is Saturn exalted and debilitated?
Exalted in Libra and Nietzsche in Aries.
Yeah, because he has the opposite
The sun.
exalted debilitator of Sun. So these have opposite. So it's a good way to remember. If you remember where Sun is exalted, it's in the first house, then you'll remember where it's exalted, where it's debilitated, and the opposite goes with Saturn. So it's easy to remember where they're exalted and debilitated from each other. Okay?
yes.
So, and then you'll remember with Venus and Mercury have opposite, and then Mars and Moon don't have opposite, but they are exalted and debilitated in each other's signs. And Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn and exalted in Cancer.
Yes.
So one way to know why it's exalted in Cancer is because Pushya Nakshatra is in the sign of Cancer and it's a very spiritual nakshatra. So do you guys think you guys have it? Do you think you'll remember all the planets?
Yep.
Yes. We will do the homework, required homework, and definitely we'll
Okay,
remember
so
everything.
I'm gonna go. Okay, so let's do this one more time. But you guys take turns. So first, Yotsna.
Oh,
So I want you to tell me all the planets.
all the planets?
Yes, all the
Okay,
planets.
Sun is Ucha in Aries, Nicha in Libra.
And what does it rule?
What Sun rules Leo.
Yes, good. Okay, now Saturn.
It's opposite Nicha in Aries and Ucha in Libra,
Perfect.
and rules Capricorn,
And
Aquarius.
so one way to remember what Saturn rules is that it's opposite the king and the queen. So Saturn is the servant. Remember I told you?
Yeah.
The sun and the moon are the king and queen.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah.
Saturn is Shudra. Saturn rules servants. So Shudra is in the chart completely opposite the king and the queen. That's how you can remember what Saturn rules. Okay?
Yeah.
Swarashi, completely opposite king and queen. So what about Venus and Venus? Where is it Nietzsche and where is it Ucha?
Taurus and Libra.
No.
This
Venus,
Swarashi.
huh?
Yeah,
Swara,
Venus
Swara.
rules. Venus rules Taurus, Libra, which is perfect. And so Swarashi is Taurus and Libra. And where is it Ucha? Where is it exalted?
It's exalted Pisces, Nietzsche in Virgo.
Yes. And Mercury, what does it rule? What's the Swarashi?
Mercury, Sagittarius.
No.
I
Swa,
Mercury,
Gemini,
Swice,
and
Gemini,
Virgo.
and Virgo. Okay, kind of. Okay.
So one way to remember what Mercury rules is the
Gemini.
the king and the queen are surrounded by their advisors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let's pretend that the advisors are Mercury, because Mercury is a planet of communication and analysis. So he's trying to give the king and the queen analytical advice about the economics of their kingdom. Okay?
Okay.
So then you can remember that Virgo and Gemini surround the king and the queen, and it's ruled by Mercury because Mercury is a planet of communication and he gives economic advice. Okay, so then you remember Gemini and Virgo ruled by Mercury. And where
Yeah.
is it? Ucha?
In Virgo
Yes, and Nicha?
Yeah.
and Pisces.
Yes.
Pisces. Yeah.
And then
Oh, it's Swa and Ucha, Mercury.
yes, Swa and Ucha in Virgo.
Virgo.
Yep. It's the only planet that has Swa and Ucha in the same house, in the same sign. So
Oh.
where did we say, okay, Venus, what is the Swa Rashi Yotna of Venus? Swa Rashi.
Taurus,
Yes. And
Taurus and Libra.
Libra.
yes, and exalted and debilitated?
Virgo, debilitated, and Pisces exalted.
Yes. And then Jupiter, where is it exalted? What's the Swa Rashi of Jupiter?
Pisces.
And
And oh, Jupiter has two. All right.
yeah,
Virgo,
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Okay.
So another way to
Oh, opposite to Mercury.
yeah, only the luminaries have one sign, moon and sun. They're the only ones that own
Right.
one sign. But
Yeah.
the corner signs, you can remember that Mercury and Jupiter own the corner signs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So Jupiter rules the corner signs on this side of the chart, and Mercury rules the corner signs on the other side of the chart. Okay?
Yeah.
So where is it Jupiter exalted?
Jupiter exalted in
Answer.
Why is it exalted in Cancer?
It is
it's a
because
home,
the fourth house is related to uh,
family.
Yes.
domestic happiness, family, education. Mm,
Actually, one way to remember is Jupiter, the fourth house rules happiness because it
yeah.
has to do with the mind. So
Yeah.
Jupiter gives happiness because Jupiter is the planet of hope. And so Jupiter automatically gives happiness. So it's exalted there. And where is it debilitated?
Capricorn.
Yes. And then we already did Saturn. Okay, so do you think you kind of remember Jyotsna, all the
Yes,
planets?
yes. Yep.
Okay, so if you just practice that today, that's your homework for today. So memorize where they're debilitated. And I think, and so you already got it, Sandeep. I can tell you already know all the exaltation and debilitation, right?
Yeah.
So that's just your homework for today. Just practice where they're exalted and where they're debilitated, and you guys can look at charts and see the persons where they have planets exalted and debilitated or in their own signs.
Yeah.
All right.
It was very nice. Actually, it was very nice experience, and you teach in a very pleasant manner. It is very crystal clear. Everything what you have taught is pleasantly going into the mind, and there are no certain doubts in the mind. Like there is no confusion at all. You made us to practice, and thank you so much for giving us so much of time having a kid.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm feeling so happy.